Rational Warrior asked me to define spiritual in this video that this is a reply to, and I'm glad that you asked me that. Okay, the way I define spiritual is the way I define whatever is involved with some sort of emotional state. And remember, we have a history of these things seeming like magical messages that really, studied rationally, couldn't be true, and in a sense aren't, and yet those feelings still relate to material conditions. Why? Because they evolved in a creature that's just trying to survive. A creature that's been, an animal this whole time, not just human for a little bit. We've been having these feelings for a long time. They are how the DNA gets us to behave the way we want. It's carrot and stick system. Good and bad feelings, even physical damage is unimpressive to an animal. It's the feeling of pain that seems to impress it. So, for example, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, the feeling of hunger. You can have a feeling of hunger. You don't have to understand nutrition or why you need food or anything like that. You find that out later. Or to go more metaphysical, what about lust and feelings of love? We have feelings like, oh, look at that person, sparkle, sparkle, sparkle. We're meant to be together. And you're not necessarily meant to be together. But there's still a material component. We understand why we get those feelings, even why we think it's fate. It's so that we'll try hard to pair with that person. This is the DNA making sure we'll try hard. The DNA is perfectly willing for us to think some magical metaphysical truth exists about the feeling. You can almost say that's the design of the feeling. Now that we can see there is no metaphysical truth, we can move mountains trying to alter how these feelings affect us. We can have that feeling and realize, no, that's just my biochemistry. And yet we can't ignore altogether the point. I mean, if we do figure out how to overpower our emotional drives to these things, we still have to have some way to do it. I mean, if somebody has no hunger drive and they can ignore it at any point, well, they better intellectually decide to go get some food for some more, mundane reasons then, right? Or else they'll die. So spirituality, I believe there's a spiritual feeling, and probably a lot of the feelings called spiritual aren't necessarily, but I do believe there's a feeling that doesn't have another name. It's not hunger, it's not, lust. It's its own really very abstract feeling, which is very, very hard to relate down to material situations. I think from the descriptions and my own experiences of feelings, I would say, wow, yeah, that was like, I don't know what else to call that feeling. It was really powerful, and yet it's none of the other recognized feelings. I would think of that as a spiritual feeling. But see, I'm a materialist, so I don't think God was talking to me. I think the DNA has programmed me to react to certain stimuli in that way. And I notice the stimuli that I act to in that way, in my case, like an easy one is to be out in nature, uh, overlooking a beautiful vista, an immense, or looking up into space even. And, that's just me. I like nature, but it could, when I think also, well, what about something more social? Is it just about being alone? Maybe it's just individualism that I'm feeling. And I think, no, it's not individualism, it's more the connectivity. You feel individual and multiple at the same time. You feel your connection with the universe. You peer in an ant colony and see how, but for the grace of God, uh, go you as that ant. Or maybe that you are going as that ant from that greater view. And you're feeling a connectivity. I mean, I'm just saying roughly. Really, I don't know. I'm not going to commit to an interpretation. I'm just committing to the fact that we have experiences with these feelings because they have the same feeling. We'll put them in a big bag and we'll look at them. And like hunger, we'll find out sometimes our hunger was because we needed food. Other times it was because of an eating disorder. So it'll be the same way with spirituality. Only even more so. I think most spirituality that is just identified and that people manage to get their spiritual feeling worked up for is from a spiritual disorder. But that won't mean there's no spirituality. And the attack on spirituality here and now today, as we know it in the West, is is it needs to be just a cleanup effort, because you're not going to get rid of it. Um, you're only going to be able to understand it. So in that sense, yes, I say it exists, and let's try to understand it.